my job as a CEO is to make sure everybody on my team can complete their mission. I become the supporter. This is also predicated by like topics like servant leadership and those kinds of things. If I go into it that way, what I'm doing is I'm helping this individual that I'm delegating to define the outcome. I'm helping them define the outcome. I can describe the vision, they define the outcome.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools. They start with something small.
You'll never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have our last debate.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of delegation in business and leadership. Today, I am stoked to talk to a very good friend, business partner, just really all around good dude, good buddy of mine, Aaron Velky. Really looking forward to chatting with you about delegation and business today. So, Aaron, if you can, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about what you got going on.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aaron. I'm a coach for high net worth entrepreneurs, successful CEOs, and individuals that are trying to make some change through the lens of vision. The company I've got is called Get Out of Your Own Way, because I'm a big believer that I'm usually the problem and that we become the problem, which very much aligns with our topic today. Our programs are all around vision and using vision tactically to help restructure business, lifestyles, relationships, and adventure. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk about delegation.
Do you feel overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up your valuable time? It's time to reclaim your schedule and focus on what truly matters. Get your time back with elite remote talent without the time zone hassle. Delegate $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Schedule your free strategy call at wisevas.io.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of digging into it. Though you and I were chatting a little bit beforehand. You kind of this is like fits right into what you do when you're talking to folks about their vision of their business, their vision with their life, and how all of that can kind of go. So I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you and have you kind of talk to me a little bit about how this kind of when you hear delegation, when you hear about all what it is that we talk about on this podcast, business delegation, family leadership. What are the first few things that pop up into your brain when we're trying to pull some details out about those things?
Well, let's call out three trends. The first trend that is a part of our practice and comes up often is I want to delegate, but I don't have the right people. And leaders would be very wise to hone in on this really quickly. When you want to pass a task down, if you're just an operational leader, and most CEOs are, they are not yet visionary in their mode of operating. When you try to pass a task down, the person on the other side has to want it, and ideally want it because it helps them grow. And I think the challenge that most of us breathe into when we're trying to build vision is our vision is very self-serving. It's about us. It's almost an ego board. It's not a vision board, it's an ego board. And if you really want to unlock delegation, you're going to have to build a vision that is bigger than you. It's going to have to let your team thrive, find their growth path, identify where they want to take their life, and really succeed themselves. So I think that's number one is not making the vision about you, especially around business. It's okay to have your personal life vision around you, but that's trend number one. The second trend is that there's a lot of vision without any kind of gravity. And this trend really just speaks to painting a vision, but not allowing a vision to have any sort of tactical influence. So building a vision board is great. You get all kinds of motivational butterflies. I'm all for that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell people that that's what we do. The idea of vision, in my opinion, is that it gives you a very clear criteria for how you make choices. So if you develop a vision really in a very specific and detailed manner, very critically, then what vision does, it describes what the business looks like, what your team looks like. Maybe you have a house manager, maybe you have a driver, or whatever your overall team looks like in business and personal. It defines behavior, it defines action, it defines no, what you say no to and what you say yes to. And if you just stop at putting the dream car, the dream house, and those things on a vision board, I think you've failed the most important piece of that, which is to take vision and use it strategically. The third trend is probably the most difficult to get your way out of, but it is important. Most of us CEOs, most of us leaders are really good at controlling and puppeteering a business. We learn how to do all the things, and therefore we start hiring for them. That's sort of like level one in delegation. A test of real leadership is the ability to delegate at level two, which is to delegate something you don't know how to do. Once your business hits a certain point, once it hits critical mass, you're going to have to hire for things you don't fully understand or you don't know. And at that point, you cannot be the operational manager of that person. You have to just be the leader of that person. And when it comes to delegation, these three things, they tend to stack on top of each other, right? Like, I need to have a vision that allows me space for my team to come in and say, hey, I want to grow, I want to evolve, I want to develop new skills. I'm also going to need to get very tactical with who to delegate to or what to delegate when it comes to my role and the responsibilities of the org. And then underneath all that, if I'm limited by what I know, I can't build a business past me. I'm the ceiling. And it's going to come to a head at some point where the person I need to bring in, I cannot manage from the lens of I've done this anymore. And I can't control it, and I can't micro and stay on top of them like I used to. I have to just lead a person, which all goes back to vision in the first place.
That was phenomenal. I'm glad I just kind of let you roll with that because, I mean, wow. So I want to go to what you just talked about, right? So if I'm sitting in the CEO seat, I'm the visionary, I'm trying to create this vision. I've now created it large enough to where I'm bringing other folks in that are helping me create, to help me like actually bring this vision to fruition. But I'm hiring people. We all, or at least I like to think that we all who are trying to run companies want to hire people smarter than us. That's why we're hiring them, right? But yet sometimes our ego gets in the way and we want to think that we know it all. Well, how do we now just lead somebody and know that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, that like all of these things, like I've now delegated these things that I don't know how to do. I brought in these people that I don't know how to do it. How do I set my ego aside to be able to say, okay, well, I've delegated it. I know that I've hired the right person. A, how do I know I've hired the right person? And B, how do I work on setting that ego aside to say, you know what, I delegated it. Now I just need to lead them and make sure they're actually getting my vision accomplished.
Let's redefine delegation. If you take delegation at face value, I'm passing a task on to someone else. I don't think that's a very healthy way to look at it. I think a more effective way to classify delegation is outlining a direction for somebody or a final destination for somebody and allowing them to navigate their way there. If you define delegation as allowing someone space to bring something to life that did not exist before, that you cannot do, and therefore they are tasked with the build out of something. My observation of them completing the task has less to do with the mechanics of the task and more to do with constant progress. Most CEOs are driven by perfectionism. They want a task perfect. But if you hire the right people, they're not task managers, especially A players. Like A players don't want a bunch of tasks. What they want is, tell me the mission. And I think the way we get out of the ego-driven management style is we invert the org chart and put us at the bottom. So my job as a CEO is to make sure everybody on my team can complete their mission. I become the supporter. This is also predicated by like topics like servant leadership and those kinds of things. If I go into it that way, what I'm doing is I'm helping this individual that I'm delegating to define the outcome. I'm helping them define the outcome. I can describe the vision. They define the outcome. They define maybe the order, the cadence, the timetable, the Gantt chart, whatever method you use, Scrum, like maybe it's EOS and Rocks, whatever method they know how to use, I'm helping them define the objective, the timeline, the timetable. They're driving the ship. I'm just the support beam. And then at that point, I think it's really critical that you have regular checkpoints and you're asking for transparency over communication. You're asking for updates. You're asking for roadblocks that a CEO might be able to remove. But at a certain point, they own the vision and your team needs to own the vision.
Yeah, I really love that a lot. And I mean, finding the right people that actually join in on that vision is something that is oftentimes very difficult to do. So how have you kind of coached your folks on how to really put that vision down on paper, it out into the ether, so that the right people see it, hear it, understand it, and say, wow, like that is actually something I could see myself driving towards, not just another job. We don't want somebody who's just in this for another job. When you're really trying to grow something, you want somebody that's like, they're ready for this. They're ready to take on this challenge. How do you put that down on paper and make sure that it's tangible enough for that person that you're trying to hire?
Step one would be your vision needs to be documented somewhere. It can't just live in your head. For most, it lives in their head, and there's a big hang up of communication. So the first step is get it on paper. We have some defined categories that need to be written out. Things like the team, describing the people, their characteristics, their personalities, how you deal with conflict, right? Really concrete details. We talk about culture. Culture, just did a podcast on our podcast about this. Culture is not your feelings, it's your standards and your systems. It should be actionable behaviors, things you want people to do. If I say our culture is initiative, like that doesn't define what the behavior is for a group of people when I'm not looking. So as a leader, I really need to be action oriented about that. But all these categories, there are reflection questions that we have CEOs go through. We really task them with pushing the envelope for what it looks like in 3 years. And when you start pushing these categories up and getting your vision documented 3 years from now, it starts to move its way down into like, okay, well, where do we start today? But I think getting it in writing is first. The second thing is CEOs really need to get good at communicating vision and almost coaching their team and developing their team rather than outlining every specific part of the task. The trouble spot that most get in with communication is, even if they don't have their vision, what they're often telling their team to do is how to think. And they're removing the creativity of an organization by micromanaging every single detail. So it's critical that you have really good communication and you're able to share what the long-term looks like 3 years from now. I think when most people build out a vision, what they end up designing is more of today. And what we're really pressing people to do is say, hey, look, dream shot, what's it look like up there? Because that's going to trickle down into what needs to change today. Every CEO should be taking a communication course or working with someone that's a great communicator to get very good at that. Because if you can't communicate it and all you're doing is using ClickUp to push tasks out, people are probably looking for other jobs. Your good people are looking for other jobs. And then I think 3, the tactical communication method for delivering vision is emotional. If a CEO stands up in front of a group of people and starts reading off numbers or metrics or profit margins for where they want to go in a few years, and I love what EOS can do for a company, but I don't like how EOS starts vision with numbers. Because a person that is part of a team does not care if the business makes 13 million in revenue. There's nothing in it for them about that. But the emotional buy-in is really important. If I'm an employee, and I've been here, when I worked for somebody else, when they were like, hey, we want to double our revenue this year, my first question was like, well, what do I get? So if you start with that, you're going to lose anything you say after that. The person in the seat's already gone. So really starting with the emotional buy-in, what's this look like? Can you compel someone to say, I want to go on this adventure? I really would love to commit my time, my heart, my soul, and my passion to this. Because without that, you're probably going to be left with a team of people that are giving you 60, 70% of their bandwidth.
Communication has been brought up a couple times where you talked about at the beginning, right? Somebody that you are bringing in that you don't really know how their job goes, right? But they're coming in to do it. You said transparency and over communication, right? Them over communicating with you, like being completely transparent and being over and doing the over communication. And then also we need to be able to communicate our vision. The leaders need to be able to communicate their vision properly and well and continually, not just here or there. At what point And I think you kind of alluded to it already, but at what point does this communication turn into, being a micromanager, right? Where I'm requiring you to come over communicate with me, and then I'm coming over the top and communicating a lot with you. And part of it you mentioned was, this is me communicating the vision, not the line by line things that we need to do. But man, oh man, I know that me personally, I've experienced where if you keep coming to my office and asking me how things are going, leave me alone, right? Like I get the point of communication, but leave me alone. Like I don't like, I'm doing what you asked me to do and I'm knocking it out. So where do we kind of draw that line to be able to say, hey, give them the independence, but yet we need to have that communication going back and forth?
Man, I just think it has to be structured and regular. The challenge CEOs face is dealing with someone that does not operate at their speed. Mm-hmm. And CEOs are almost manic. There's a tendency in entrepreneurship where what gets us lift is high energy, high velocity. And eventually we face the paradox of speed where us going as fast as we go starts to cripple the organization. So if you have a regular touch point, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every other week. I think it very much depends on the project and the person. But that's a relationship build out where I'm going to build regular time on the calendar to check in on progress, to ask you questions. I'm not going to text you unless there's a real need. I'm not going to text you in between. I have to have the trust to say, you're working on this. I know you're working on this. You've got other responsibilities and those things. But on these regular cadences, we both know that we're going to have a meaningful check-in. In my world, there are 4 things that a CEO has to have on their calendar. You have to have thinking time. You have to have networking time. You have to have key meetings, key people time. And then last but not least, you need self-care. The key meeting time is this, where if you're moving a big vision forward, you've got to have regular touch points with your team. And those 4 things need to be like the golf balls on your calendar that go first. And then the rest gets slotted in. But what I see is a lot of reactivity with CEOs who try to delegate stuff out that are big, right? They're 90-day goals or they're 60-day projects. And it's random. And anyone that's good at their job, it sounds like, you are locked in on your goal and your target. Anyone that's that good does not need you randomly checking in. We don't need a babysitter. We don't need a mom. We don't need a dad. We need some regularity and structure. Otherwise, get out of the way.
That's where I try to discuss with a lot of people, like when we're doing coaching or talking to them. It's like, if you hire the right person, you shouldn't need to be over their shoulder all the time, right? Let them do their work, right? If you have to be over their shoulder, you either haven't built the trust with them or you hired the wrong person. Yeah. Or they haven't built the trust with you. It may not be you with them, it may be them with you, because that goes both ways, that trust side of the house, right? So it's very difficult to kind of to manage those relationships, but you have to make sure you're hiring and firing the right way. And man, that makes the delegation a whole lot easier. And
what comes to mind, you used the word relationship a couple times. This is not a one-way road. If you help get this vision to life, we're on the same team. I'm working with you, you're working with me, I'm working for you, you're working for me. And both of us are in service to this vision. And I think one that gives many teams the ability to point to something that's beyond an individual, right? Hey, you don't work for the CEO, you work for the vision. And that allows us to sit side by side and work towards something collective, which prevents the kind of interfacing conflict that most teams face. There's also phases to conflict. And in a relationship, this is paramount for people to understand. The bottom of the triangle of relationship when it comes to conflict is unhealthy peace. That's the bottom. It's the worst, where it's peaceful, but you're just avoiding at that point. The next step up requires you to go into unhealthy conflict. Like you have to bring it together so that you can get to the final piece, which is healthy conflict. But if this is a relationship and we're really working on it, I might need to ask you, hey, is this cadence working for you? Hey, is this time? Is this too much? Am I checking into, you really got to have a sense that you are on the same team and you're not trying to prove someone disqualified. You're not trying to prove someone as incapable. That's not the goal. The goal is to help each other.
So when it comes to like actually managing the employees, managing team, what sort of, both in your own world and from your experience coaching a lot of CEOs, what sort of tools are a lot of people using to make sure that some of this stuff is actually getting done, that they're managing things well, that they're seeing what's actually happening, that the vision is being cast correctly? What sort of tools inside of the company or over on the outside of the company are folks kind of using to make this happen?
Regular team meetings are important. A good agenda is critical to that. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time for everybody. What patterns seem to work is, rather than doing like a round robin of, what's good, what's not, having some kind of dashboard that you can talk about in that meeting. That dashboard could be little accolades, could be milestones, et cetera, but checking in on progress and looking for bottlenecks. I always think that's important. Data has to play a key role in that as well, so that it's not just all emotional. And I have certainly gotten caught in this where I was managing someone I didn't fully know how to manage because I didn't know the task. And without data, I was just asking questions and not digging into progress and trying to find something that was concrete and real versus the emotional checkpoint and the relationship building. So I think that's important too. If you don't have a business system, EOS is a popular one. If you don't have a business system, I do recommend sitting down and designing one for yourself and one for your team, where you have regular reporting. It might even be like a weekly. I did do weekly reports for my job when I was in my early 20s. So there might be a need for some kind of reporting. I think last but not least, when it comes to your role as a visionary, holding the vision, one-on-one meetings beyond just a team meeting is probably your best bet for making real progress. You're going to have managers, you're going to have team leaders, you're going to have people that are responsible for teams, but you're responsible for the people leading the teams. And those one-on-one meetings, you're going to get way more done on an individual project basis than you are if you're just gathering everyone together and hoping to get major movement out of it. So you have your team meeting that gives you some concrete update, but then it really needs to be one-on-one with leadership.
I want to shift gears a little bit to like personal life type stuff, right? So we've covered a lot of delegation inside of business. One of the things that I try to talk to people about is delegating inside of their own life, right? Like I've talked to somebody who's talking about having another kid. I don't remember if I mentioned it on this podcast before or not, but how, like, hey, look, if you got yourself a house manager that only comes a couple times a week, manages to clean the house, takes things to the dry cleaning for you, goes grocery shopping for you, knocks out a bunch of that stuff, and makes your life a little easier. Like that can really make a huge difference in your life. What sort of things have you seen your CEO clients or even you yourself kind of work in their personal life to delegate some of the things that take up so much mental space that it makes it hard to do the things that they're really good at? That like those are like those $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour jobs that they may be able to do if they sat down and did that, the CEO thinking time that you talked about. But instead they have to go, run to the grocery store like I did this morning, right? Like how do you work that in the personal life side of the house?
I think the same approach is key with personal life. There's often a guilt and a shame around delegating personal life more so than in business. In business, we understand you've got to delegate to grow and scale. In our personal lives, there's often a hesitancy to say, well, I need help with this. We got a lot of DIYers listening, I'm sure. I've seen people delegate laundry, groceries. I don't go to the grocery store anymore. I've had to delegate that out. Meal prep is a big one that I hear often, especially with big families and Sundays that are family oriented. And then you're trying to tack on meal prep onto that. What I think is worth mentioning though, the personal front is a really important delegation mechanic, because as a visionary, if you're really trying to march towards a big vision, as soon as you put your head down, everything slows and shrinks. If you look at your personal life the same way you look at business, we're trying to find experts that are great at these different maneuvers. If you're really bad at doing the grocery list, or really bad at cooking, or you're really bad at laundry, or you're really bad at like organizing activities, what vision should help you unlock is that you're doing what you love and what you're great at only. And if everyone in your major nucleus. Think of it like a cell or a city. If everyone in the city is doing what they are great at and what they love, what you'll probably find is things move really fast and fluidly, but you have to have the same lens personally. It is worth looking at. Do you need a trainer? If you're not going to the gym and you keep saying that you're going to go to the gym and you don't want to build a program and you don't want to follow macros, hire that out. If you don't know what to do with your gut and you're dealing with gut issues, hire that out. It's the same approach that we would do with social media. Hey, I'm not doing good. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to splice these things. Hire it out. Why we have not approached our personal lives the same way bewilders me. But every CEO, even anybody in business, even anybody at home, we now have access to so much support. It's worth taking 10 minutes to think about, what am I getting slowed down by, like a lawnmower and long grass, and finding a way to hire it, because you can hire anybody now.
Yeah, and I think that the need to do that, and that was one of the things I was talking to my friend about, was like, look, if you and your wife were both able to come home from work, the dishes were already done, grocery shop's already been done, dinner was on the table, do you really think the stress of all of this would be something you'd be thinking about? No, it's gone, right? It's gone.
Right.
And if you're, and yes, that all costs money, right? On the personal life, that's something where you're like, oh yes, but this is my personal bank account we're talking about now. This isn't my, the business where I get to kind of put all these things through and all this stuff. So it's kind of a mental thing. So how can folks kind of get over that mental thing to look at this and say, yeah, but that's my personal bank account now. I'm Venmoing people money. This isn't going on my business credit card. This is going through my business over here, right? This is something different.
If you are hesitating to delegate your personal matters, you are effectively devaluing your time in such a major way that you would rather spend hours managing your house or managing your fitness or managing your travel and adventure for the family, rather than be with your family, rather than be at the gym, rather than be in your key relationships. My biggest struggle, and the scarcity of this is certainly something that I share with others, is putting the money in first. Once it's in, it's almost magical how easily I can let go of it. But it's the first leap where I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to delegate this, or I don't know if this is going to be worth it. The only way to figure that out is to delegate it out, navigate it for a month, go through the growing pains of, hey, I have a house manager, or I don't need to do that anymore. What do I do with my time? There's a limbo that I think is part of that transaction, but you can only evaluate on the back end. So it would be well worth everyone finding one or two things in their household or in their relationships or in their adventure that they can get out. And then a month later, sitting down and saying, hey, was that worth it? If it wasn't, then you can make changes. But sitting on the sideline and saying, I'm not really sure if it's worth it, again, you're devaluing your time.
Yeah. And I think that we definitely look at that on the business side of the house on, hey, is this, I've read enough books to know, who, not how, and I put all that in, but to put that into your own personal life, like that's tough, right? It's tough for folks to be able to do. So, Aaron, like, you are obviously a super massive wealth of knowledge in this. You've been, I can tell you've been putting in a lot of effort to make sure that you are bringing the best to your clients and all of that. So tell me a little bit about what you have coming up in the future. Tell me more like about you yourself. What, like, you're obviously growing something, and you've been doing amazing work over the last few years that I've known you. So tell me what kind of things do you have coming up now in the future?
My last several months, I've been building an AI undercover, which has been amazing. We've taken about 5,000 hours of coaching calls with CEOs and merged that into all of our methodologies and frameworks and tools and systems that are a part of this now living vision neural AI. So super stoked about that. That's going to be a big tool for clients, so that when they are not in a call with us, or not one-on-one, or not in a group, they have support that's just as meaningful and just as practiced in some ways. So I'm excited about that. We've got an accelerator program that's going to kick off this May. It's an 8-week program that's going to take the average CEO that's an operational leader into a much more robust visionary leader, where they understand focus, they know how to delegate, they've built out their business vision, they've built out their personal vision. And by the time the 8 weeks is done, they'll have a completely different way of operating their business, developing their org chart, hiring, modeling their roadmap. It's going to be a lightning show when it comes to change. So I'm really excited about that. We want people to get clear, get focused, and start to make change. And we do that in an 8-week sequence that takes what we used to do in a year. Then we used to do it in 6 months. Now we do it in 8 weeks. So we've taken the home run hitters from our 6-month one-on-one coaching program and bundled it together in a group program that's going to launch in May.
That sounds phenomenal. But Aaron, it was so awesome kind of hearing how you kind of put this all together. I mean, you and I, like I said at the beginning of this, we've been friends for years, and just kind of hearing how you kind of put all this together and all the work that you've done to it, it's been phenomenal to kind of see throughout the time I've known you. I really appreciate you spending some time jumping on here. If folks are hearing this and saying, wow, like I clearly want to kind of work with Aaron, what is the best way for folks to reach out to you and get to know a little bit more?
Best place to go to aaronvelky.com. If you want to learn about the accelerator, if you're tired of being stuck and unclear, go to aaronvelky.com/accelerator. You can book a call right there to learn more about it or see if you're a good fit. You can apply there. And if you want to follow along, learn about vision, learn about the tactics that we use and some of the methodologies, Instagram is a great place to follow along. So go there, check me out. Just my name, Aaron, Aaron. Last name, Velky, V as in vision, ELKY.
Ooh, V as in vision. Look at you, man. Oh man, check
oh,
you out.
Boy.
Golly, I love it. So aaronvelky.com, check you out on Instagram, all that. I, again, cannot say enough. Thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome having you on here. Everybody who was listening, I'm positive I was on, what am I, 5 pages of notes already? Four full pages of notes. I really loved everything you brought to here. I thank you so much for the work that you're doing, the service you're providing. So for folks who want to reach out, please do. Please like, subscribe, comment. Tell us below what your favorite tip was. And also tell us what your least favorite tip was. Let us fight back and forth and arm wrestle you over the internet to tell you why you're wrong and why Aaron's right. Let's go ahead and do it. But please like, subscribe, comment. Really looking forward to hearing some feedback. And Aaron, thank you again for jumping on, and we will see everybody on the next show.